Okay, well, in a couple of minutes, Jean's going to come forward and lead us in some movement practice. And if you were here in, was it July, Jean, that we did that before? I think we did this in July, so Qigong. And um, if you were here before, great. If not, if this is something relatively new to you, you can just notice if there are any thoughts coming up. As I mentioned, movement practice or Qigong. Just notice what thoughts are arising. Um, and whatever's arising, just to see if you can greet it with, oh, okay, that's something sounds kind of interesting. I don't know if I've done it before or can do it, but I'm going to give it a go. And what we'd like to encourage you to do, particularly tonight, is to really drop into the body, to let the body lead you in this practice. We often get caught in our heads with thinking about what we're doing. So that we're in some sort of a conceptual framework with the mind, even in exercise, even in movement. Maybe one of the best metaphors would be to think of if there's a particular activity that you love to do or have loved in the past, be it cross-country skiing or swimming or tennis or hiking, whatever it was, when you get into that flow of being completely in the body, see if you can drop into the body tonight with Jean's guidance and let go of that conceptual mind to the degree that's possible. So we're dropping the attention from, am I getting this right? How do I look? How do I look to other people? Down into the body to say, what are the sensations? What's happening here inside of me right now? What am I noticing? And after this guidance in movement by Jeanne, then we'll come to a sitting practice. So you can just come back to your seat, wherever that is. So, yeah.
Okay. I think this works. Thank you so much, Brianna, for being so, she had to put up with a lot before this got reinstated. And bows for sure, for sure. I also want to tag on for just a minute to what Darby said about the auction, that a lot of people offer services, and you might not think you have a service, but say you like to photograph, you could put that out to see if someone wanted to photograph with you. And it's just interesting to hear how another person sees things, their view. And so you might think that, oh, I bicycle ride, I really like that. But if you put that out and somebody bid on it, they could ride with you on places that you may know and other people wouldn't know, or kayak or canoe or take a walk. I have this great place to walk, the secluded farm, is it called? Or, something like that. And we want to build connection, between us, and more connection in different ways. So I just wanted to put in a plug for how much I've enjoyed, the connections with this great auction. Okay, so out of the head and back into the body. So taking a deep breath. And I'm going to just guide us in some easy movement. And if you don't feel like doing it, don't do it. If you feel like sitting down, sit down. If you don't, adapt this, do your own thing. But it's kind of, I really like it because it lets loose of my body, that I'm trying to follow my body rather than my head. My head is always telling my body what to do. Will you pick up that and bring it over there? Or will you walk over here or do this or do that, drive that car? And it's very nice that the body has its own wisdom and you can kind of let loose of the body and trust that it's going to unwind in its own way, that no matter where we are, we're pretty tense. And that we store, as we know, we store a lot of that in our body. And so to give it the opportunity to just let go a bit. So maybe just closing your eyes, just staying where you are, and maybe just gently rolling your shoulders backwards. And see if anything shifts. You're looking for micro movements. You want to be real attentive to these micro movements, where things let go. Imagining, for example, that you're kelp underwater. And just let a little loose of the body and see what the body wants to do. It can be very subtle. You might notice you take a deeper breath. Having the body be like a cool pond on a hot summer day. And letting the head just sink into the body. Our closest relationship is with our body. But we don't necessarily treat it like that. We're always yapping away at it. It's helpful to think of 3 layers of the body. We've got the outer layer. That certainly is the one we pay most attention to. And then the middle layer, kind of the organs, and then the inside layer. And it's helpful to learn about the inside layer. And let it have a little room. Let it unwind a little bit. Maybe watching how close your neighbors are and letting your arms move a little bit. So this movement, this Qigong, is about waking up the Qi in our body, which is our life force, and circulate it a bit. So this is kind of like playing, only at a very subtle level. And if you feel comfortable standing, just keeping your attention within your own body. And move out to the aisles if you want a little more room. And just let your body loose a little. See where it wants to unwind. Be a little surprised. Be a little amused. It's like, isn't this interesting? I had no idea that I was tight and yada, yada, And notice if you take deeper breaths. And rolling the shoulders again forward and backward. We can hold tension most anywhere. It's a storehouse, this body. And bending your knees slightly on the inhale, bring your attention back up your spine, over the top of your head, and then on the exhale, come down the front. And just keep doing this a bit, bending your knees slightly, having your shoulders move if you want, your arms move. You might want to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, the tip of your tongue. And it's helpful to have your toes a little clawed. Just feel that, start to feel that energy circulating. And then rocking forward and back on your feet. You might want to keep your eyes open, looking at the floor so you don't tip. And you can time this with your breath or not, or just notice your breath. And then rolling around to the right on your feet, kind of on the edges of your feet. And definitely hold on if you feel a little unstable. And just this simple reorientation into our bodies, and then the other way. You might find yourself with some gratitude. It's like, thank goodness my feet got me here, my legs. You know, we take our bodies so for granted. And then coming to a standstill, have your knees be soft. And on the inhale, bring your hands up with your palms facing toward each other. And then on an exhale, come down again. And then do this on your own time, in coordination with your breath, or I should say awareness of your breath. Now they say, if you do this 100 times a day, you'll live to be 100. If you do this 1,000 times a day, you'll live forever. So as you bring your hands up, see if you can feel between your palms some energy. Or do any variation of this you want. This is not. And then rest a minute. And in this resting, feel. It's like you can't look with your eyes into your inner body. You need to feel it. Doing a quick scan, seeing if you're holding tension anywhere. And then tucking your thumbs in, do kind of a chopping motion and alternate. And you may want to do kind of a sharp exhale every time you get down, you know. These simple movements can be so interesting. And then rest a minute. Check your knees, have them be soft. Check the places you ordinarily hold tension. And tipping your left ear toward your left shoulder. And then your chin toward your chest. And then your right ear toward your right shoulder. And then back again. So this is sort of a half a circle. Doing it in your own time, in your own space. Pausing wherever. Or leaning into any aspect of it. And getting your arms in it a little bit so that you're stretching a little. Being aware of your neighbor. And then pausing again and circling your hips clockwise. And then counterclockwise. Shifting your weight from foot to foot. And then letting your arms kind of slap on the opposite side of your body. So you're kind of turning and slapping at the same time. And of course, crossing the midline is good for both hemispheres. They like this. And then let yourself just shake any way you want. And then folding one hand over the other in front of your hara, your second chakra, 2 inches below your navel. This is sometimes called the sea of chi here. This is the center, the strongest point of energy in our bodies. And on an inhale, expand. And then contract again. And keep doing this in your own time. with awareness of your breath. You might touch into some generosity as you open. And bringing energy in. Gathering energy in. And expanding again. Everything contracts and expands. A wonderful story from last year's auction just occurred to me, in that someone donated a homemade chocolate cake. And the person that won the bid on the chocolate cake said they hadn't collected it yet because every time they thought about it, it gave them such pleasure that they were enjoying it over and over without having picked it up yet. So isn't that how it is? We open and we close, we expand and we contract. And then just stand for a minute. Notice how you're feeling, how your body's feeling. Whether you feel a little more embodied. And thank you.
Thank you, Jeanne. So just noticing what's true now in the body. Maybe some ongoing movement, pulsing or vibration. Aware of qualities of movement and perhaps of stillness, sitting here. Dropping over and over again into the felt sense of the body, welcoming whatever's here. The breath, maybe some tightness here or there. some ease. Aware of the volume of the arms, the weight of the legs, the solidity of the feet resting on the ground. Slowing down, releasing, letting be. The breath moving, repetitive, and yet each breath unique. Aware of the wave-like quality of the breath in the body, how it rises like the swell of the ocean, and then falls like that dip between the swells. Each wave a bit different. If the attention wanders, if you're aware of a train of thoughts, then simply noticing distraction. Let the attention be drawn downward from the head into the felt, direct experience of the body. Instead of making an effort to refocus on the breath, allow the breath itself to draw you back in, not knowing exactly what you'll find. feeling the heartbeat with awe and curiosity. This body, a living marvel in all its lumpy, bumpy imperfection. Resting, hearing, encouraging your attention to dissolve into the sensation in the body, saturating the feeling as if your mind were water and the feeling a sponge. May our practice here tonight serve the welfare, the happiness, and the freedom for all beings. The title of tonight's talk is Courting the Body with Don't Know Mind. I was just reflecting on Jeanne's invitation to all of us to think about what we might offer in terms of this auction, and to think of something creative that you might want to do, like go for a walk or kayak somewhere, or hang out or have lunch or make dinner for people. That's Darby's idea. Make dinner for people. So yeah, so many possibilities with this mind that sometimes gets so constrained by what it thinks it knows, or what we think we know about ourselves, what our boundaries are, what's possible, what's not possible. So thank you for that. So there are different concepts of mindfulness and understandings of the body, as we know, and the idea here tonight, if you haven't been able to discern this theme, is that for some of us, when we learned about mindfulness, it was a rather Western-based approach, if you will, a cognitive approach to mindfulness, where we were invited to consider how the mind operates and to develop the capacity to return the attention when it wandered to a focal object, the breath being the most common one. And what we're looking to do tonight is to talk a bit more about a deeper concept of mindfulness, where the mindfulness is not so much in our head, but in our bodies. You know, we operate from here up, right? We we neglect this incredible terrain that we live in. And so, how is it that we can, given our conditioning, how we've been trained and educated and directed, how can we begin to see a fusion there as opposed to two different entities? And I want to go back to what the Buddha said about the body in case you've forgotten. But before I do that, I want to ask you, if you were to think about it for a moment, what's your intention in being here tonight? Roll that around in your head or in your body and see what pops up. Why are you here now? So maybe it's peace, clarity, comprehension, understanding, nourishment, happiness, others, connection, belonging. So lots of reasons. Maybe it's just resting, just opportunity to slow down in a calm place with other people, connecting, doing the same thing. Well, whether it's what we've just mentioned, peace, rest, happiness, connection, belonging, these words from the Buddha will support you. Here's what he said. There is one thing that, when cultivated and regularly practiced, leads to deep spiritual intention, to peace, to clear comprehension, to vision and knowledge, to a happy life here and now, and to the culmination of wisdom and awakening. And what is that one thing? Mindfulness centered on the body. If the body is not cultivated, the mind cannot be cultivated. If the body is cultivated, then the mind can be cultivated. So what the Buddha was teaching really was that everything that we need for awakening, for spiritual freedom, everything is found within this fathom-long body. So he didn't reject the notion of an objective world, but he focused on the role of the senses and perception. And again, his words, within this fathom-long body, with its perceptions and inner sense, lies the world. The cause of the world, the cessation of the world, and the path that leads to the cessation of the world. So mindfulness of the body is really one of the best windows that we have into our inner life. Even when we're overwhelmed by painful emotions, for example, mindfulness of the body helps us recognize the body as the container for those emotions. And you can probably recall the last time you were fearful, a tightening somewhere in the body, the stomach, or anger heating the face, or joy warming the torso, the chest, or restlessness coursing in the legs. And the idea here is that if we can focus on the bodily sensations that are produced by the emotions, it's easier to stay present for them and to allow the mindfulness to reveal their deeper nature. And as I said earlier, in this Western culture, the body is often viewed as something to be manipulated, if you will. It's supposed to be dressed a certain way. It's supposed to look a certain way. It's supposed to be exercised, fed, taken care of. So the conceptual body tends to be somewhat fixed in time, with ideas and opinions dominating our relationship to our body. And you might notice how that is for you. What's your relationship to your body right now? Because we're often asked, well, maybe the body should be earning more, maybe it should be doing more, maybe it should be being more. And there's a lot of stress associated with those conceptual ideas. But there is actually a lot more happening right now than ideas about the body. So obviously right now your body is breathing, your heart is beating. There's air on your skin, if you're aware of that, the air on the skin, the temperature, the sensations of gravity pulling you to earth. Your ears are hearing, at least to some degree. Your eyes are seeing. And your body is also in a process of beginning and ending, with cells dying and others being born. Some interesting facts about your body. The cells in your stomach, in the lining of your stomach, can be renewed as quickly as every 48 hours. Death and renewal. Skin cells live for about 2 to 3 weeks before they're sloughed off into dust. Red blood cells live for about 4 months. So this body is undergoing a constant birth, death, birth, death. So this is a vibrant, flowing universe of our experiential body. Mostly we're unaware of it unless there's something wrong, a disease or injury or illness. And it includes the thought, emotional realms as well, the energetic activity. Um, our moods flow just like the blood in the body. We know that because they get registered on our faces. We can look at each other and we can make interpretations about what the mood state is based on what we think we're seeing. We may be totally wrong. Um, but I once had a teacher, Richard Strozzi Heckler, who's done a lot of work with somatic learning, and he says that we carry the stories of our lives in our bodies. And think about your own, to what degree that's true. Physically, yes, of course, and also what's been true for us emotionally with regard to our own living. So if we're in this constant state of change while we're alive, with renewal and dying happening simultaneously, then this experiential body has a certain quality of knowing. It's just doing all this stuff without our input whatsoever. It has a lot of basic knowledge. It's working no matter what. So when we become aware of what we're actually experiencing, the body from the inside, we perhaps can see that the body is awareness itself. It's a process and not a thing. So with that understanding, perhaps it's possible to see the mindfulness of the body as an invitation to the awareness which is already present in the body. So the practice is not so much about directing or creating, but dropping down into the body to experience it in its full aliveness. The notion of a cognitive understanding of mindfulness where we were perhaps trained to think of a focal object, it's not that that approach does not have value. Indeed, it does. To just begin to see our minds in a different sort of way has a lot of value. Um, because we begin to notice, well, what's going on with inside this body, both experientially, but also um, thoughts that are arising, leaving. And it's useful sometimes when the mind gets particularly restless and or caught up in all sorts of long trains of thought. And we don't even know, well, what was the first thought that started that train? And by the way, where am I going to get off of this train? Where is it going? It's really useful to be able to see that, to notice that. And again, in our cognitive training, to exercise that muscle of attention and come back to a focal point can be really useful, particularly landing somewhere in the body. Because with that practice, the body, the mind, learns to calm, which in turn makes space for more clarity, more insight. And you might think of that cognitive approach as a little bit of like a taming or a subduing of the mind, because there's a quality of purposeful doing. This other approach that we're talking a bit about tonight, that Jeanne led us in the practice of, is more of a surrendering to the body's mindfulness. So instead of struggling to subdue the mind or change things up, what would it be like to let go of striving and just drop down away from this headspace into the body and truly feel what's the sensations are in the body? One writer says that practice is remembering that we are natural creatures, listening to our own blood and bones and glorious guts with awe and curiosity, weaving us into the world. So perhaps rather than coercing or taming the mind, we lean into the weaving, trusting the body. And Jeanne used that word tonight, trusting the body. In that way, the mind relaxes its grip and the body leads the way. Because the body is sustained attention, right? That's what we're practicing, what we're aiming towards. But the body's always present, aware, vibrant. It's here. It's not out there planning the future or reminiscing about the past or some sort of sidebar conversation. It's here now. Will says it like this. She says, the secret of stabilizing your practice has not only been right under your nose, but it is your nose. And the rest of your body too. This is a practice of remembering how to listen, because so much of this is about getting out of our own way. Getting out of our own way. So the mind is distracted. I don't know about you, but mine can be very distracted. But the body's not. The body's not distracted. It's here, not planning, not ruminating. It's an amazing amalgam of incoming sensations and ongoing biological mechanisms. Our bodies know what to do. They know how to rest. The heart does so in every beat. And if you've ever lived with a dog or a cat, hands? Lived with a dog or a cat? Yes, you know this phenomena. It's quite clear. We have a 4-month-old puppy, a little doodle named Annie in our house now. Let me tell you, her body is present and vibrant. She lives in the moment. She responds immediately to any new smell, any new sound, internal signals of need, and occasionally our commands of leave it off. So her body is naturally mindful, present, and aware. And I have said to several of you, we've had her now for 2 months, that she is a marvelous mindfulness teacher. And you, if you've had a pet, know this as well. Oh my goodness. You take her out and she sits there hearing a sound or smelling something I'm completely unaware of. And she sits there in this incredible meditative posture that I could never emulate for the longest time, just looking, and the ears twitching every now and then, the head tilting, just listening or smelling or looking. We did that this week with 4 deer who were in the neighborhood. She didn't bark, run after them. She sat and watched. And the doe came 3 steps toward her. This is some distance, visible but not close. Had a fawn, stamped her foot. The dog sat and watched. The deer looked at the dog. There was incredible interaction that went on for 5 full minutes until the deer, after having stomped her feet a half a dozen times, finally snorted that wonderful snort that deers do, threw up her tail, and ran off. Wonderful mindfulness teacher, these animals we live with. She also knows how to rest. Tired? What do? Flop right where you are. Just go down. So how do we court or tune in to this body of ours, surrender to its natural mindfulness? Uh, Living in our heads as we do, one of the things we notice is that there's a train of thought probably for every implicit belief that we have. And it's really challenging to let go of what we think we know, right? We're sure we know. And the signals around us tell us that we ought to know. We better know. But the radical teaching is we don't know. The not knowing doesn't mean you don't know anything. It doesn't require you to forget everything you know or have learned or to suspend all interpretation of a situation. Not knowing means not being limited by what we know. Holding it lightly, so lightly that we're ready for it to be different. Maybe things are this way, maybe not. So it's a bit like discovering new territory. We can be curious. It's like this now. Exploring, oh, this too. Or grounding, this feeling, this sensation is happening right now. And the more that I can drop my attention downward from the head into the body with its immediacy of feeling and vibrancy, the less likely I am to hang out in the head realm with all of its opinions and its viewpoints. It's a lot easier to let go or to surrender my need to know or my belief that I'm right. You don't have that going on, right? The body is changing moment to moment. So if we can acknowledge that impermanence, that constant change, and acknowledge uncertainty, and maybe even apply don't know to the big questions. Here's an example. How would we live our lives if we had a clear sense of the uncertainty of the time and place of death, our own and that of others? How would we live our lives if we had a clear sense of the uncertainty? What's it like to be aware that we don't know the answers to some of life's biggest questions? I don't know is often the truth for life's cosmic questions as well as beliefs that have been enshrined in our thought patterns. So you might try this out if, let's just say if, the thought comes up, I can't do that, or I need, or I am, follow that thought with the words, I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Don't know mind is an opportunity to approach every situation as if you had no biases. It's not an invitation to ignorance, but it has to do with a softening of rigid beliefs that perhaps limit possibility or potential. Courting the body with don't know mind can give us a lot more space, degree of wonder, and more opportunity for awe and surprise. So I'll close with 3 haikus that relate to the season. So the crickets, the cicadas that are out there at this time of year. Here's the first one. I'm going to roll over, so please move, cricket. I'm going to roll over, so please move, cricket. The second one. My arm for a pillow. I really like myself under the hazy moon. And the last one. A cicada shell. It sang itself utterly away. Thank you for coming tonight, for your presence and your practice.